Hello, PCA families. It is Monday, the 9th of June. This is the first Monday of summer, and over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be coming to you and talking about how this last year went with a little bit of a preview of how the next year will be going, at least in our mind, as we're thinking and praying and preparing for it. But this week starts the first of a 4-week series before the 4th of July. And when I'm going to be talking about how your kids grew this year academically. In a couple weeks, we'll talk how they grew spiritually, what we saw there. And I look forward to sharing some more of those stories with you. But I wanted to touch base with you, especially those in the lower grades who got your NEWA results back already. And I would just want to help put that in perspective. As you know, we say at PCA that when we focus on your child's growth, the achievement will take care of itself. And I think that's really important. In a world that is focused on performance and achievement, that is appropriate for certain areas of life. But when you're trying to foster and maximize growth and potential like we do here, that's our mission, as you know, and to do it in a challenging, loving, and inspiring way, we really focus on growth. And so we've been tracking that pretty closely for the last few years. As you know, the tool that we use both internally for your child to track your child's growth with you over their time here at PCA is the NEWA. We also use it to see how your child grows with his or her cohort, her grade level, as you move through PCA. And we use it a third way, is how does PCA by grade level and by division and as a whole school, how do we measure up? Are we preparing your children to go out and thrive in the world so that academically they can not just do adequately, but they can actually thrive and flourish and they can help lead others? So that's our standard. We really want to see them grow, thrive, and flourish, not just at PCA, but beyond academically and spiritually. And today we're going to be talking about how they're doing in terms of academic growth as measured by the NEWA and at a high level, because you have their individual scores and grades. And I'm going to share a little bit how they're doing by grade and by cohort. And so some of these images will be below. I shared some of these last year. I thought they were helpful based on feedback from you all. So I updated them this year. And I think what you're going to see on my first slide here that I'm looking at is a slide called Trends in Growth at PCA Across Grades, Subjects, and Years. And we're looking at math and we're looking at reading. And you can see that back in 21-22, which is our first post-COVID year when we did assessments, you can see where we were in terms of our reach goal, how many grades met that, in terms of our growth goal. By the way, our growth goal is to basically help your kids grow faster than peer schools like ours. And peer schools like ours means we're like top 10% schools in the country. Are we your kids growing compared to other kids at other schools like ours? Our goal is to help your kids grow faster than that. So when you see the PCA met their growth goal, that means that that's happened. Our reach goal is clearly far beyond that. If we've met the growth standard, that means that your kids have grown just as much in those grade levels as other schools at other top 10 and top 5% schools across the country. And I'll explain that a little bit more, in a minute. But if we didn't meet the growth standard, that means we're below that, obviously, but we're typically not far below that. But I just want to let you know that this is what we hold ourselves accountable to by grade. And you can see that in 21-22 in math, 4 of our 8 assessed grades in math met the standard or hit the goals. You can see in reading that 7 of the 10 did not even meet the growth standard. And so what you can see that over time, a couple things have happened. We get out to 23-24, you go, hey, there are more grades here. That's because we started assessing more grades. We actually added the 11th grade in. We streamlined the math assessment so that we could get a good look across all the grades. And that's what you see starting to happen. Like, why are there more grades? The PCA didn't all of a sudden add more grades, but we did assess more grades. And you can see in math that, wow, it was a really good year for growth last year. But when we look at this year, my goodness, It was an incredible growth year across the school. It's just really, really grateful to see that level of growth. Pretty amazing. And when we look at reading, you can see that there was still another good growth year. It was solid. And we'll talk more about what that meant, but we're still not hitting the marks that we'd like to see. To have every grade hit the growth standard every year is clearly our goal, and we're committed to doing that. But I would not be surprised on any given day that if we were like 10 of 11 or 9 of 11 for those. So we have a ways to go. I think math is about where we want it to be. There's some areas we want to focus on here in terms of growth. Reading definitely needs some attention, although there's some real strength in the school. So that's pretty amazing. And well done to you as parents to encourage your kids to step into their courses, as well as to your kids for doing it, to meeting the challenge, and to our teachers. And I had a great meeting with some of your kids' teachers today. Most of them, they're pouring into this data down at the individual level, their classroom level, their grade level, and what do we need to sustain or improve your child's growth? That was what today was all about. And tomorrow's going to be, how do we tune the curriculum to help foster that growth? And so I want to shift a little bit, because I said earlier that when you focus on growth, that achievement will care for itself. And so you'll see in another chart that's below is that when you look at back 4 years ago, that our math achievement percentile, when we didn't meet our growth goals back in 21, 22, that we're, overall as a school, we're in the 78th percentile in math, while we're in the 90th and 93rd in reading and language usage. And there were several things that we did starting in 22, 23, in order to help math in particular get better. We added more time, especially at the lower grades and the middle grades, more time, instructional time. We had some software tools. We had some curriculum work. We had some good continuity among our teachers. I asked the teachers today, what did you attribute that to? And these are the things they shared with Dr. Abood and Mrs. Blatchley. So by the time we get to 23, 24, you see that your kids have gone from the 78th percentile as a school to the 95th percentile in math. And then this year, they had another good growth year, and they're at the 96th percentile in terms of math. So this is a good overall story. It does vary a bit by grade, and I'll be updating and spending more time with you. We got some good feedback from you already about focusing on math, and I'll have an update for middle and upper school next week on math, and where we're going for next year, as well as science. But I wanted to share this with you because this includes your kids in the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade in terms of their growth and their achievement when you pull them all into the whole school. Reading growth, as you can see, has been a bit more uneven as a school, but you can see that the reading percentile, your kids is, grades 1 through 11, when we put them all together, in the 90th percentile in the country as a group, right? So if we're give you a feel, there are about 100 high schools, 130 middle schools in the country, in the state of New Hampshire. And so this is where, you'd find that our school would be in terms of reading. And frankly, I'd really like to see that get up. It's been higher before COVID, up around the 95th percentile. And that's where we'd like to go, where math is. And language usage, writing, grammar, that has done pretty well. I'd like to see that, again, similarly be up around 95th percentile. But when we focus on growth, and we've hit, in language usage, we've hit the growth goals, or standards at least, for 3 of the last 4 years. So what has that meant overall? You can see that overall growth, we've been hitting our goal last 3 years, and you can see what that means. We're more consistent across those subject areas, your kids are, and they're becoming really, really excellent across the board. And these are approaching the achievement levels that we saw at our best years just before COVID. We're a much smaller school then, about 200 fewer kids. And so I was asked the teachers today and celebrated with them that your kids have come, and they've risen to the challenge of PCA, and they're achieving at these levels. And it's pretty amazing. And we just thank the Lord and we celebrate with you. The other interesting thing you may not know is that this has happened while we've added quite a few more teachers. And there's been during a nationwide teacher shortage, and your kids' teachers have worked with your kids to help them grow into this. And it's pretty amazing. And I just want to call it out and celebrate with you. You may not know it. And so I just want to give you that perspective. I think the last piece that I just want to share with you is that we strive for consistency of growth and achievement across every division of the school. And I'm working with the principals and the other division chiefs. That's preschool. Yes, they have their own growth assessments. They're not called NEWA. They're called TS Gold. And if you're a PCAP parent, I can tell you that Miss Harley reported to me and the rest of the teachers today that just some amazing growth that they've seen in math and reading in particular for your kids, the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And we also want to see growth with our Mosaic students, both those that need support as well as those that need challenge. And so Mrs. Beal, Louise Beal, who's our director of Mosaic, she reported out today, and some really solid growth as we try to help those kids that need to get up to grade level in reading. And if you've got one of those children, we're just so grateful again for your walking that path with your kids and with our Mosaic team and your homeroom teachers as we help them close the gap. I think I would just reiterate that it's very personal. That's what Mrs. Beal said. Each child needs a very personalized focus. That's what our Mosaic specialists do, and they do it really well. And the earlier interventions are better. More and more of our teachers are getting LIPS training, which helps your kids with phonics, and also studying the science of reading and the science of learning. And so those types of professional development, my hat's off to Carrie Abood and to Harley Tuttle and to Louise Beal for really getting our teachers at those early grades where interventions really, really can help the most, really well equipped. And I think we're going to have seen and will continue to see steady growth for your kids at those earlier ages. Not included on my charts today, and I really look forward to figuring out how to do that, is Mrs. Tiffany Schifano, our finance director, and her team reported on growth that they're seeing in the fine arts side. And I think it's important to recognize that I haven't emphasized in the past is that when it comes to academic divisions, the fine arts program is academic. It's not additive. There's amazing learning that happens, and it spills over into the other disciplines. And so I look forward to figuring out how to work with Tiffany and her teachers on how to bring that type of growth forward. But if you haven't been to one of the musicals or one of the concerts and heard the progression and growth that happens from level to level, then I'll tell you, I think you're missing out. There's some YouTube links you can see. I may link a couple of them below, sort of fall to spring, and just sort of, and then age levels, and just see the progression, see the growth, hear the growth in all that they're doing. And really, really incredible. And as we know that the music in particular translates so well into all the other disciplines, especially in STEM. And so our encouragement is to see your kids continue in music and art as part of their larger growth effort. And so the last one I wanted to highlight here is that your kids continue to do really, really well across the board. We almost qualified for the blue ribbon, presidential blue ribbon eligibility. So we wouldn't have necessarily gotten it, but we would have gotten close to it. And that's just that, we continue to see as we focus on growth that I'm confident that we can get there, certainly in a year or two. And just to give you a feel, what does that mean? That means that every grade that we assess your kids as a group by grade will score at the 85th percentile or above compared to the other grades across America, public and private. And so for the second year in a row, we got super close. And to give you a feel and perspective, there's not a single school K-12 in New England that has a presidential blue ribbon. And if you win it, you keep it for 5 years. And this is based on achievement, not on growth. And so I look at this and I go, we're close. But I also want to highlight something that we do that's very different and makes it particularly challenging. Most schools, whether they're high school, middle school, or lower school, they'll just kind of apply and compete on their own. They'll assess maybe 1 or 2 grades every year to qualify. We assess every grade from first grade through 11th grade, and it's the spring scores that count. And we look at the end of the year, and there's no other school that I know of that tests all these grades. And we have our, I think, really good reasons why we do it, but most of it is for you as moms and dads to have confidence that you not only see your child growing, but you see how they're growing with their peers, and then how we're growing as a school. My hope is that you will see this and go, wow, PCA is committed to not only my child's growth, but every child's growth academically at PCA, but against standards that are national. And it's pretty amazing to see that, I think. And I just want you to have that perspective and maybe take it on and consider it. I recognize that your son or daughter may or may not have had this type of experience this year. In some cases, you may have seen a dip in growth compared to prior years. You may have seen real growth in areas you didn't expect. I would encourage you to reach out over the summer, probably before the 4th of July, to our principals and just say, hey, as we come back next year, I really have a conversation around this so that we can start off next year really, really well. We will typically do the fall assessments in September after Labor Day, and these will form the baseline for teachers who have, as they look back as well a little bit to this year's scores that your kids did. But our curriculum is very, very rich across all the different disciplines. Obviously, reading is across social sciences and literature and Bible, and STEM is across all the math and sciences in all their various forms. And so we really see your kids, by the way, in fine arts, right, has a lot of math in it. And we just want to help focus and see how we can inspire your children to continue to want to grow. Our hope is to really help your kids engage in the material they're learning across the disciplines, even those they don't care for as much, and really step into the challenge of growth. So as we wrap up today, PCA community, I just want to, again, thank you, and I thank the Lord just for the growth that we've seen this year academically. And again, the NEWA scores are a really good, best baseline in what we're seeing, knowing that your kids' growth in all the different subject areas that they touch, all the projects that they did, all the different ways they engage with learning and God's creation and with each other are just hard to capture and quantify. The stories of what they learned of dissecting squids and doing sea perch and for going on missions trips, writing about those, sharing them in drama in all the different ways just are not captured in the data. But I think the data is helpful for us to see another perspective. And that's what I was hoping to do with you today. So I look forward in the next few weeks of you getting different perspectives on your kids' growth and how we've seen it this year and how we're cheering you on this summer, praying for you, and how we look forward to next year, even as we prepare for it this week and in the weeks to come. So wherever you are, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more on Mondays with Mike and reflecting on the 24-25 school year. God bless.